Chapter 10, Lesson 3. As we can see, Chapter 10, Lesson 3 is we're going to start talking a little bit about some guidelines for healthy eating. By now we should have an understanding of the different type of nutrients, the importance of carbohydrates, proteins, vitamins, minerals, and water. But now it's important really to start talking about food choices and maybe how to adequately eat or how to eat in a healthy fashion. First slide here is we're looking at some guidelines for eating right. If you look at the dietary guidelines for Americans, it is a set of recommendations about smart eating and physical activity for all Americans. There's been a lot of conversations over the years as to how do we educate the American public on the proper ways to eat. And some of you might remember we used to have the food guide pyramid where we were told how many portions or how many servings of each food group we're supposed to have. Then we had the My Pyramid, which one side we had the food choices, the other side of the pyramid we talked about exercise or activity. But all of those guidelines were a little bit confusing for most Americans. So what we've moved to now is to a recommendation called Choose My Plate, which will be discussed in some of the upcoming slides. But the biggest thing is these are some guidelines that have been published by the United States Department of Agriculture and the Department of Health. And they try to really look at what nutrients we need, what type of foods we need to be eating, and the biggest thing is how much do we need to eat to prevent a deficiency from occurring and also to prevent us from possibly eating too much as well. It's science-based advice for healthful living, and the advice can be summed up into three key guidelines. Is one, we need to make smart choices from every single food group. Two, find your balance between food and activity. And three, get the most nutrition out of your calories. A common thing a lot of people, a common statement that a lot of nutritionists will make is we want to make sure that we eat foods that are nutrient dense, which means that food has as many of the 6 important nutrients as possible. And in the long run, when it's all said and done, we want to make sure that we limit our calories. So making some smart choices. As you can see here, we have a Choose My Plate. We have a visual here. And this will hopefully help most Americans have an understanding as when I sit down and we have a plate and we're going to eat a meal, what actually should go on that plate. So as you can see right here is your plate should be broken up into vegetables, protein, grains, fruit, and we need to try to find and include dairy with every one of our meals. Okay, so on the right hand side, balancing calories. One, enjoy your food, but eat less. A lot of experts will say that we tend to fill our serving dish full, meaning the smaller the plate, in all likelihood, probably the smaller our portion. So a lot of experts will say try to use smaller plates, smaller bowls, smaller cups, etc., because that might help us to reduce our portion sizes. So enjoy your food, eat less, avoid oversized portions. Foods that you should increase is make half of your plate fruits and vegetables, make at least half of your grains whole grains. So we want to make sure that we're eating a lot of the potatoes and the pastas and the rices and things like that. Whole grains, whole wheat, switch to fat-free or low-fat 1% milk. So when we're having our dairy, the perfect world we want to be drinking skim milk, but no more than 1% milk. Some foods to reduce is compare sodium in foods like soup, bread, and frozen meals, and choose foods with lower numbers. Foods that tend to be pre-prepared, frozen, packaged, etc. tend to have high amounts of salt because salt is a preservative. It helps food stay fresh for a longer period of time. So we want to reduce those and drink plenty of water instead of sugary drinks.
How to follow the USDA MyPlate dietary guidelines. Forget the food pyramid. The U.S. Department of Agriculture's nutrition guidelines are now called MyPlate. Here's how to adhere to the USDA recommendations. You will need fruits, vegetables, grains, protein, dairy, and smart choices. Step 1. Picture a plate divided into 4 sections: fruits, vegetables, grains, and protein. Fruit and vegetables should fill half the plate, with veggies taking up a little more room than fruits. Divide the other side between grains and protein, with grains getting a bit more space. Now envision a small cup next to your plate, marked dairy. Not soda, dairy. Go to choosemyplate.gov to find daily MyPlate requirements of each food group according to age, gender, and level of physical activity. Step 2. Eat a wide variety of fruits and vegetables so your body gets a range of nutrients. Eating produce of different colors is an easy way to do so. Step Step 3. Get your protein from omega-3 rich seafood, lean meats and poultry, eggs, nuts, seeds, and beans. Avoid processed meats like bacon and hot dogs. String beans are vegetables, not protein. Step 4. When filling a quarter of your plate with grains, make sure that at least half of them are whole grains, meaning they contain the entire grain kernel. Examples include whole wheat flour, bulgur, oatmeal, and brown rice. Step 5. Choose dairy foods that retain their calcium content, such as milk, most cheeses, and yogurt, as opposed to those that don't, such as butter and cream cheese. And try to stick to fat-free or low-fat dairy. If you drink soy milk, make sure it's calcium fortified. Step 6. No matter what food group you're eating, limit salt, solid fats, and added sugars, those that are put into foods and beverages when they're processed. Bon appetit! Did you know? First Lady Michelle Obama's anti-obesity team collaborated with the USDA on MyPlate.
Something that's important to note on this page is the website, choosemyplate.gov. It is an interactive website. It's very user-friendly, and there'll be an assignment that you'll be doing in one of the upcoming lessons as well, where we're going to have you go to Choose My Plate and to create a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner using Choose My Plate, learning how to look at portion sizes and different food choices within each food group. Your best choices when it comes to looking at the dietary recommendations is vary your vegetables. Colorful is really important. Get your calcium-rich foods. Once again, choose calcium where the calcium content will be retained. Milk, yogurt, cheeses, things like that. Make half of your grains whole. If it contains the entire kernel, that would be considered a whole grain. Go lean with your protein. Protein is very, very important, but red meat tends to have a higher amount of fat than poultry or fish. Just make wise choices within your protein, and then obviously limit certain foods, and those would be your sweets and your candies and your sodas and things like that. Getting the most from your food, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of experts will recommend that you choose nutrient-dense foods. These are foods that have a high ratio of nutrients to calories. Example, eat a large carrot versus a half ounce of potato chips. They have the same number of calories, but the carrot is obviously going to provide more nutrients. When it's all said and done at the end of the day, when it comes to managing your weight, calories is going to be the most important, but we want to make sure that with the calories we consume, we're getting as many of those vital nutrients as possible. The importance of breakfast, we've all heard that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. We need to refuel our body after we sleep. We are burning calories 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Somebody who is not burning calories is considered dead. So what we need to do is we need to make sure that when we wake up, we've now gone 6, 8, 10, 12 hours without any fuel. You're now asking your body to act in a way that it hasn't acted for quite some time, and it needs that fuel in order to work. So breakfast is extremely important to get that body going early in the day. Ideas of a great breakfast might be oatmeal, cereal, hard-boiled eggs, whole grain muffins, toast, peanut butter, etc. Something is better than nothing, but the more nutritious, the more nutrient dense, the better. Some sensible snacks. Snacking is something that a lot of Americans choose to do. So when we are going to snack between meals, it's important that we choose smart options. So some possible options might be, fresh fruit, cut up vegetables, string cheese, unsalted nuts, air pop popcorn, fat-free yogurt, and breadsticks. When you are going to eat out, and a lot of us are going to eat out, a lot of the restaurants, there are foods on the menu that are very high in calories. So we want to make sure that we're going to make smart choices when we're eating out. So we need to watch our portion sizes, pay attention to how that food is being prepared. You want to choose grilled or baked over fried. Add fresh vegetables and fruits. So if you have an option, French fries or fruits, always go with fruits and vegetables. Go easy on your toppings, and don't drink your calories. So stay away from the shakes, the pop, things like that, because you're not going to get a lot of nutrients from those, a lot of empty calories.